Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Grantara Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Grantara Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20, Text 5. Tayo samvadato sutta. Tayo samvadato sutta. Pravritahi malakata. Pravritahi amalakata. Apogangai vagagnir. Apogangai vagagnir. Hare padam bujashraya. Hare padam bujashraya. Tayo samvadato sutta. Pravrita hyamalakata. Apo Gangaiva Gagnir Hare Padam Bujashaya Tayo Samvadato Sutta Pravrita Hyamalakata Apo Gangaiva Gagnir Hare Padam Bujashaya Tayo Samvadato Sutta Tayo Samvadato Sutta Pravrita Hyamalakata Hare Padam Bujashaya Tayo Samvadato Sutta Pravrita Hyamalakata Apo Ganga Iva Gagni Mataji's Tayo Samvadato Sutta Pravrita Hyamalakata Apo Ganga Iva Gagnir Hare Padam Bujashaya. Okay. Tayo, while the two, Maitreya and Vidura, Samvadato, were conversing, Sutta or Sutta, Pravrita arose. He certainly, Amala, spotless, Kata, narrations, Apa, waters, Ganga, of the river Ganges, Eva, like, Agagni, vanquishing all sins, Hare, of the Lord, Padambuja, the lotus feet, Ashrayaha, taking shelter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shonaka inquired about the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. There must have been many narrations of the spotless pastimes of the Lord. The hearing of such narrations is exactly like bathing in the water of the Ganges, for it can free one from all sinful reactions. Purport: the water of the Ganges is purified because it pours forth from the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita is as good as the water of the Ganges because it is spoken from the mouth of the Supreme Lord. So, it is with any topic on the pastimes of the Lord or the characteristics of His transcendental activities. The Lord is absolute. There is no difference between His words, His perspiration, or His pastimes. The water of the Ganges, the narrations of His pastimes, and the words spoken by Him are all on the absolute platform, and thus taking shelter of any one of them is equally good. Sri Rupa Goswami has enunciated that anything in relationship with Krishna is on the transcendental platform. If we can dovetail all our activities in relationship with Krishna, then we do not stand on the material platform, but always on the spiritual platform. Again, the verse Shaunaka inquired about the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. There must have been many narrations of the spotless pastimes of the Lord. The hearing of such narrations is exactly like bathing in the water of the Ganges, for it can free one from all sinful reactions. Omajnana timirandasya gnanjana shalakya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakapatarvyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Seeking the blessings of the senior Vaishnavas, especially Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So, third canto of Bhagavatam is particularly known with the instructions of Kapila, but actually all this is appearing in the conversation between Vidura and Markandeya. So it's interesting that whenever there is discussion between Vaishnavas, the topic will be one, and this is Krishna, or Krishna Katha, or Krishna Lila, everything connected to it with Krishna. Devotees, they are the most intelligent persons, and they know that if you invest your time and energy in this way, this will be absolutely beneficial. Whereas everything else, although it can bring some temporary benefit, at the end of the day it's a waste of time. So devotees, they want to speak about Krishna. And that's why to listen conversations between devotees, it's always beneficial. Because at the end, definitely there will be Krishna Katha. Shri Radha Govinda ki Jai. So sometimes someone may say, well, I'm not sure about that. It depends on the devotees, it depends on the situation. They may speak about so many other things as well, not only about Krishna Katha. Yes, and devotees, they are normal human beings, so it's natural that sometimes they may speak about something connected with this material world, or how they are going to survive, or what kind of problems they have. That's part of the human life. But sooner or later, their topics, they will become connected with Krishna. So this is the benefit of conversations between the devotees. Sooner or later, there will be Krishna Katha, and sooner or later, one will be directly benefited from these conversations. And as a general, hearing about anything connected with the Lord is a beneficial. And benefit is absolute. It doesn't matter if we are listening about Krishna, or the expansions of Krishna, or pastimes of Krishna, or qualities of Krishna, or even devotees of Krishna. Things which are connected with Krishna, the benefit is the same. The benefit is totally absolute. And devotee, he has this understanding from the beginning of his spiritual life. That's why devotee is ready to invest energy in this direction. He has faith that just by speaking about Krishna, or just by listening about Krishna, he'll get spiritual benefit. Otherwise, why we are going to invest time and energy with this? There are maybe millions of books out there, and many of them are interesting books, interesting in a sense, the way how they are written. It can create interest in the person who is reading the book. But the devotee know why I have to engage my hearing power, my energy in this direction. What will be the benefit out of it? A devotee does not see benefit. Maybe sometimes for variety, he may go there, but then doing it for some time, he see, well, there is not really much juice there. There is no amrita. Like now when me and Pandava, when we were coming from Europe, the flight is quite long. It's like, it depends from where you fly, but let's say around 8 hours or so. From India it's even longer. So people, they are bored and they don't know what to do in the plane. So generally, what are they doing? 2 things. Yes, with the eating is 3. Either eat, but eating is kind of short because you cannot do it for a long time. Then sleeping you can do for quite some time. But at some point even you become bored from this, so they immediately start watching movies. And being in the plane, even if you don't want to watch a movie, it's a question of time to see something because everyone around you is watching. And then you kind of, okay, this looks interesting, and you watch a little bit, and this is interesting, you watch. And then after some time it becomes boring because it's the same. Nothing, it looks like there is lots of variety and lots of depth in this, but actually no. And Krishna Katha is the opposite. It looks like that is the same and it's very boring, but actually no. Because the more you go there, the more juice you can get out of it. The more your concentration goes deep in this direction, the better it becomes. So there is no distinction between the different pastimes of Krishna or the different books about Krishna. Sometimes devotees, they differentiate, they put some differences. Okay, let's say if you read Bhagavad Gita, no, Bhagavad Gita is just for neophytes. It's not, if you are advanced, you have to listen to something more beneficial, something more serious, let's say, at least Chaitanya Charitamrita. Or if you are more advanced, you can go to 10th canto of Bhāgavatam. Devotees, they don't make this distinction because they know the nature of Krishna is absolute, and it doesn't matter if I'm reading Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhāgavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita or whatever, any book connected with Krishna will get the same purification out of it. Sometimes we have this mentality, we want to do the things because we will get some happiness out of them. And that's normal. But generally, in the beginning of the spiritual life, devotee enters with different motivation, with the motivation of going through some purification, because he understands, I'm not pure, and then in order to become purified, I have to do something which will help me. And it may be pleasant, or sometimes it may not be pleasant, but anyway, let me go through it because at the end I'll be benefited from it. So devotee wants to purify himself. This is the benefit he is seeing from reading Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhāgavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's why we don't differentiate between one pastime of Krishna and the other. Srila Prabhupada is saying in one place, there is no difference between a rasa dance of Krishna with the gopis and fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Devotee is seeing these 2 pastimes in the same way. One should always listen Krishna Katha from pure devotees for few reasons. If we listen from pure devotees who are free from material motivation, this Krishna Katha will act like a medicine. It will purify our heart very, very fast. If we listen from a devotee who is not completely pure, or in other words, still he has some material desires, again there will be benefit, but it will take longer. The influence of the medicine will be slower. And then definitely we should not hear from atheists and Mayavadis, yes. Avaishnava. Mukot girnam puta harikatamritam shravanam naiva kartavyam sarpo chishte yatapaya. We should not listen from Avaishnavas, from non-devotees, because although Krishna Katha is coming from their mouth, actually there will be some contamination effect on our consciousness. And also we should not listen from Mayavadis. Why? Mayavadi, Krishna, aparadi. He is offender of Krishna. How he is going to present properly the science of Krishna if he is offender of Krishna? Definitely he will have some different angle on the matter. He will give us understanding which is not the pure understanding, the pure Siddhanta on the matter. Mayavadi Bhashya Shunile Hoya Sarvanash. If Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, if someone is listening from a Mayavadi, everything will be destroyed. Everything means his whole spiritual life will go down, will disappear. We will lose our taste, our interest for Krishna. So we have to be careful not to listen from these personalities, but rather listen from pure devotees, and then this katha will be very, very potent. Sometimes we are discussing with devotees that if you are in the association of very advanced devotees, and just by being there, just by speaking with them, immediately you feel all your doubts about the spiritual matter, they start decreasing, they start disappearing. And suddenly you become extremely enthusiastic about trying to make serious spiritual advancement. It's interesting how it works, but just the association of these devotees, their consciousness basically somehow or other enters our heart, and we start thinking in this way. What is the hearing? What is the benefit of this hearing? What is the effect of this hearing from pure devotees? We can read few verses which are describing this. So let's start with few verses from the beginning of Bhāgavatam, 2nd chapter. Shrimvata svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridi antastohi abhadrani vidunoti suhritsatam. So, Shrimvatam svakata Krishna. If someone is listening Krishna Katha, which the verse is saying, it's beneficial by itself. Just by listening Krishna Katha already is a great thing. So if someone is doing this properly, then Krishna, who is within his heart, becomes very satisfied. And then the result is Hridi antastohi abhadrani. Whatever is in the heart which is abhadra, which is not beneficial, which is bad, which is dirty, vidunoti, it will be destroyed, it will be removed from there. And why Krishna is going to do this? Suhritsatam, because he is a friend of his devotee. Krishna wants to purify the heart of his devotee. But he is making like a test. He wants to see, is this devotee serious or not? And what is the test? Are we hearing Krishna Katha? This is the test. If the devotee is eager to engage big part of his time, of his energy, listening Krishna Katha, this is the test. And Krishna is saying, oh, this devotee is serious. Okay, I'll do it. I'll purify his heart. I will remove all the anarthas, all the dirty things. And the previous verse is saying how we can get this desire to listen about Krishna. Shushrusho Shradadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Puna Tirtha Nishevanat. To serve the great Vaishnavas is amazing thing. Why? Because it can bring desire to listen about Krishna again and again. If we are serving the Vaishnavas, the advanced Vaishnavas, they have amazing taste to listen about Krishna. And if we are serving them, automatically we are getting also this taste. Krishna consciousness, Krishna Katha becomes very, very tasty, very juicy, and we really enjoy. Actually, we don't want to do anything else. We just want to listen Bhāgavatam. We want to read Bhagavad Gita. This is the benefit from this. Then we have another famous verse. It's from 10th canto, from the Rasa Lila chapters. Do you like these chapters? I thought devotees likes everything connected with Krishna, isn't it? Yes. Okay, Gopal Chambu can sing this verse. He knows it. Come on, do it for us. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibir iditam shravanamangalam shrimatatam bhuvigrinatie burite janaha. Yes, this verse is saying, give me 1 second. The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and the soul of those suffering in the material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are the most beneficent. So, Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam. This is the life, actually, of the soul. The soul is getting the nectar to continue to exist from Tavakata, from Krishna Katha, from narrations about Krishna. So, if many days passed and we don't hear Krishna Katha or we don't read, what will happen with us spiritually? Yes. Like Natabar Prabhu, when he was in India, because he didn't have a good digestion, he lost how many kilos? 10 kilos. So this is the result. If we don't have enough Krishna Katha in our life, we are fasting. We are fasting spiritually. And we are fasting for a long time, we'll become very thin and very weak in Krishna consciousness. And if we are weak in Krishna consciousness, Maya can crush us very easily. Very easily. So we have to eat strongly in Krishna consciousness. We have to make big muscles. Okay? Clear? We have to do it. Very important. Yes. And then we have the third verse of Bhagavatam, which is saying, Nigama kalpataror galitam palam shukamukam amritadrava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamam alayam muhur aho bhuvi rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. So this Krishna Katha is extremely tasty, extremely juicy. But in order to start experiencing this, we have to go and listen from someone who already has this liking for Krishna Katha. And then we will learn to relish it every day, every day, every day. With everything new, it's like that. When we start doing something new, we generally don't have taste for it. Let's say you wanna learn to play musical instrument. And in the beginning you have some exercises you have to do again and again and again. And it doesn't sound good. And at some point you are saying, well, there is no juice here. It doesn't sound good. It's not nice. But then if you continue doing it, at some point it starts getting better and better and better. And then you start enjoying it. Or with the sports is also like that. You play some sport, let's say football. Do you play football? No? Yeah, you are intellectuals. You don't play these things. Let's say any sport, basketball. Okay, let's go to NBA. Basketball. So in the beginning, doesn't have much juice because you are trying to do it. You see others are doing it and they are good, and you try to do it, but it doesn't work out. So you don't really get any juice out of it. But then if you do it again and again and again, it becomes very relishable. So the same thing is with Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, we try to practice the process of Krishna consciousness, but it doesn't really work. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. Let's say you sit down to chant Hare Krishna and you chant 1 hour, 2 hours, and then after 2 hours, you just look around and you ask yourself, did I heard at least one holy name? Maybe no. And then you cannot relish the nectar of Krishna consciousness. Or there is Bhāgavatam class, and you hear, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and you're already gone. And then at the end of Bhagavatam you hear, Mahaprasadi Govinde, and you immediately, okay, now the life starts. So we are missing the opportunity. The nectar is there, the juice is there, Rasam Alayam. The rasa is there, but we are missing it because we are not conscious about it. We are conscious about so many other things that we are missing the most nectarian part. His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj sometimes gives interesting example how we are missing the juice of Krishna consciousness. He's giving example of going to take prasadam, and there is a big feast. Many preparations. And devotees, they start serving. Generally, now sometimes we are into the other system, the Western system. But generally the tradition in India is you sit down peacefully, because when you eat you have to be peaceful, and then someone comes and serves you. So devotees, they start serving the different preparations, and someone comes and serves you rice. And you start eating the rice, but you want to eat it with the dal. So that's why while eating the rice, you start saying, dal, 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 where is the dal? Bring me dal. And then they give you the dal, and you start eating it, but you are already thinking about the paneer sabji. Paneer, paneer, who is serving paneer? Give me the paneer. You're eating the rice and the dal, but you cannot experience anything because your mind is in a different place. And then paneer is there in your plate, and you start eating it, but you're already thinking about the sweet rice. Where is the sweet rice? Who is serving the sweet rice? Give me the sweet rice. So in this way, the whole feast is gone, and you ate everything, but you actually couldn't relish anything. So sometimes we go through the different process of Krishna consciousness. We chant, we hear Bhāgavatam, we associate with the devotees. We take even prasadam, but often we are doing it unconsciously or mechanically, and this is a problem. Because we go through the process, but we cannot get the nectar from the process. So that's why when we speak about hearing, there are two things, quality and quantity, and both are important. Quantity is important because generally the more you do something, the better you become in it. And from our practical experience, we can see if we read one verse from Bhāgavatam, there is some benefit, but our mind cannot really go deep. But then if you take Bhāgavatam or any book of Krishna consciousness, and you start read, and you are reading half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, and then maybe after 2 hours, now you feel, okay, actually now my mind is really here. Until now the mind every 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes will start thinking about something else. Now I am really focused, now I am really into it. And then you start relishing the juice, and so many questions are coming, and you are seeing so many detailed information on the pages of Bhāgavatam. Then the juice starts coming. And the quality is important because without a good quality, again, we cannot relish Bhagavatam. About the quantity, there is an interesting statement of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He is asking the question, how long a devotee should read Bhagavatam? Like 1 hour a day, or 2 hours a day, or 5 hours a day? How long? And then he is answering this question. He is saying, well, a devotee should read Bhagavatam until he faints. And when he faints, when he wakes up, he starts reading again. And he reads again until he faints. So this is from ecstasy, of course, from ecstasy. Not from starvation. I mean, this will be also beneficial, but better from ecstasy. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And then about the quality, so one important thing is we should listen from persons who are free from material desires, Nivrita Tarshaya. And also we ourselves, when we read Bhagavatam, we should try to read Bhagavatam with the idea to make spiritual advancement, at least with the idea of purification, or with the idea of going back to Godhead. This is the proper motivation. Sometimes people, they can read Bhagavatam very enthusiastically or any other spiritual book, but why are they doing it? What's their motivation? Yes, to get powers, or they read somewhere, if I read one chapter of this book every day, everything auspicious will come for my family, money, good education, everything will be fine, there will be no diseases, so they're doing it. And it's good, and it's pious, but they don't have the right motivation. They are not Nivrita Tarshaya. They are not free from material desires. They want something material, actually, out of this spiritual practice. Srimad Bhāgavatam is saying, Dharmasya hi apavargasya. The real goal of Dharma, of spiritual practice, is apavarga, to get free from the material world. One should not perform spiritual practice to get material benefit out of it. This is not the right way to do it. We can do it, and we'll get lots of material benefit if we want. But from one perspective, it's foolish. It's foolish because you can get something much, much, much more precious, and you exchange it for something which is much cheaper. Doesn't make sense. So we said we should not listen mechanically, we should listen very attentively, Bhagavatam. Attentively means, one spiritual master one time said, Devamrita Maharaj, he said, when we read, we should read paying attention to the details. There are so many details, very interesting things on the pages of Bhagavatam. But if we are reading mechanically, we will miss them, and they will give us so much juice in our reading, in our hearing. Like, for example, some time ago I was reading first canto of Bhagavatam, and I read it a few times. And in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada is saying that Shukadeva Goswami, he went on the heavenly planets and he related Bhagavatam there, Bhagavatam or Mahabharata, I don't remember exactly. But it had, do you know how many verses? 1,500,000 verses. Wow, that's fascinating information. Immediately one can start thinking, okay, if we have 18,000 or Mahabharata, 100,000, so what is there in the rest? It's very interesting immediately. One wants to know. So that means there is so much more information about Krishna, about spirituality. I want to know what it's all about. So then it becomes very interesting, spiritual life. So we have to read attentively. And we have to also read with understanding, not with confusion. This is very important, because sometimes we read, and the result from this reading is we are totally confused and we don't know if we want to practice Krishna consciousness or not, what's going on. And we have to read with understanding. Everything should become more clear when we are reading. That's also important. And if it's difficult, then we have to approach someone who can help us to understand properly. the things. Sometimes we read different things and we think, oh, there is some contradiction here. In one place it is said this thing, in other place it said something else. No, we should know there is no contradiction in Shastra. Because the goal of Shastra is to glorify who? Krishna. So everything which is in Shastra, directly or indirectly, is doing the same thing. There is no contradiction. But sometimes from our perspective, it may look like that there is contradiction. Like, for example, if someone is traveling with a plane, and we can hug him and we can say, so what's the weather? And he can say, oh, it's amazing weather, very sun is shining, very nice weather. But we, because we are under the clouds, we may say, no, the weather is so bad here. So sometimes it's like that. We read Shastra, but because our consciousness is not purified enough, is not very elevated, and we read something and we understand it in the wrong way. So that's why if sometimes we think there is confusion in Shastra, there is contradiction, we just have to go and speak with the devotees who are more knowledgeable, and they can help us to understand how actually there is no contradiction. And also, when we read Shastra, we should, there are two ways of reading Shastra. One is more like a reading. You just, let's say you have a quota and you just want to finish the quota, so okay, I have 15 minutes left, okay, let's go. And the other way of reading is reading with contemplation. We are contemplating, you are trying to understand this verse is saying what exactly. So, what is the benefit from this knowledge for me in my personal spiritual life? Like that. Trying to think while you are reading. And then you can get so much benefit. In the, we could say, Vedic tradition, there is this understanding of different levels of absorbing the knowledge. One is Shravanam. Shravana means hearing, yes. So you are hearing, you are getting the knowledge. You may read it and hear it, or get it directly from the spiritual master or from the association of devotees. So you hear the knowledge. Then second level, we could say, is manana. You start contemplating on the knowledge. You start thinking about the knowledge. Okay, I heard this thing. So what actually does that mean? What does that mean that Krishna and his name are not different? Binatvam namanamino. If Krishna is really not different from his name and I'm also associating with Krishna every day, wow, that's something amazing. So I have to be very careful when I'm chanting. So contemplating on the knowledge that we are getting. And then the third level is nididhyasanam. Means you take this knowledge that you heard, you contemplate it, and now you want to put it practically in your life. And if you do that, there will be certain result from this. So to hear knowledge is good, to contemplate on the knowledge is even better, but now, understanding deeply this knowledge, you have to put it into practice. And if you don't, you'll be stuck on one of the previous levels. You won't get practical, scientific experience about the benefit of practicing as a Krishna devotee. You may know you may know so many things, you may heard so many classes, you may visited so many programs, but if you don't practice personally this, it will stay a secret for you. So that's why we have to go through these levels, we have to put into practice. And the last thing I want to say is that in our tradition especially, so much importance is given to hearing, especially Srimad Bhāgavatam. Why Srimad Bhāgavatam? Different reasons. Of course, one reason is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that hearing Srimad Bhāgavatam is one of the 5 most potent angas of bhakti, of devotional service. Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat, Shravana, Mathurava Shrimurtire, Shraddha Sevana. So one of the 5 most potent angas of bhakti is listening Srimad Bhāgavatam. But also lots of emphasis is given to Bhagavatam because actually Bhagavatam is our book. What means our book? Well, in our Sampradaya, Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the book is Bhagavatam. Like every spiritual tradition, speaking about Vaishnavas, they have their book. And not to all the spiritual traditions, the book is Bhagavatam. Like for example, which is the book about Madhvas? Mahabharata. That's the most important book for them. They are reading Mahabharata every day. Madhvas. Or which is the most important book for the Shri Sampradaya? Maybe also, but generally another one. No? It's Purana. It's Vishnu Purana, yes. Because they are worshippers of Vishnu, Narayana. So for them, they are giving lots of stress of Vishnu Purana. And we have also our book. And our book is Bhagavat Purana. Why? Because Bhagavat Purana is completely glorifying Krishna. Ete cham shakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is totally 100% established in Bhagavat Purana. That's why this is our book. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Some questions or comments?
So, you were mentioning all these different ways of how to hear, and we can't just like mindlessly do it, and we need to spend some time, and then we'll actually get realizations. And that was, so one is a comment and then a question. So the comment is that when I was seeing, so everyone just saw, a few people just saw Divya yesterday.
Can you put it like that?
A few people just saw Divya yesterday, and she's like a good doctor. So but I met her, one of her first Ayurvedic gurus when I was in India, and he told me, he like took my pulse and we talked for a while, but he basically just told me one simple thing. He's like, if you just chew your food, then all your health problems will be solved. And he told me, basically when you're, there's so many reasons, like your mind is, your tongue is kind of like the front desk for your mind. So when you actually chew it and let the food sit there, then you actually get more satisfaction from it. So it was like your example you're giving from your Guru Maharaj of you're eating the feast, but as soon as you're eating the rice, you're thinking about the dal. As soon as you're eating the dal, you're thinking about the paneer. As soon as you're eating the paneer, you're thinking about the sweet. And like that, you actually can't be satisfied by any of it. And so, that's very powerful to just slow down and chew the Bhagavatam, and relish it. And so my question is, in a generation where people have Spotify and they can listen to anything at the touch of a button or hear anything, or their mind is always so like caught up in a million different things, and even compared to previous generations, they can't really relish anything. So what do we do to help them, to help ourselves that are also part of this generation?
Yeah, so basically, when we are speaking about all these things, we have to hear attentively, not mechanically. We have to contemplate. Actually, all this means to follow the process to hear in Sattva Guna. That's it. Just get your consciousness and put it in this place. And then everything else later. And then there will be a bigger benefit out of it. So what you are saying, that's the problem with modern culture, that it's very destructive culture. So it's rajasic or tamasic, most of the time tamasic even. But it's putting our attention in so many different places, and we get something out of here, out of there, but we cannot really get something substantial out of anywhere. That's the problem. So sometimes the experienced senior devotees, they are saying that it's very good to plan your day in such a way that you know what you are doing. Let's say you have time to eat. When you eat, you have to chew. That's it. Just forget about everything else. One time I was to one Ayurvedic doctor and I asked him, can I hear a class and eat? Because we are devotees, we don't want to waste our time. And he said, you can, but if you want to be healthy, better don't. You just better do what you are doing. Just do one thing at a time. But our Ajasic mind makes us to think that if I'm doing only one thing, I'm wasting my time. Because I want to be more efficient, I'll do 2, 3, 4, 10, 50 times at the same time, and then I'm really efficient. But actually no, because no of those things that we are doing, we'll do it nicely. Like we read and we do something at a time, or we listen class and we do something. We listen the class, but actually we don't listen. It won't go any deeper. So it's recommended, this culture of just doing one thing properly. And if we start doing this, actually we will see that although we are doing one thing, we are getting more out of it. Because you do it, and then it's over, but you really did it. And you feel happy, you feel accomplished, you feel satisfied. So this is one thing that can help. We can make a plan. Let's say, this is my time for reading. Okay, let me just read. Let me just lock the door and just read for 20 minutes. But let it be just reading. Just get rid of the phone. Don't go where there are 50 devotees speaking and joking and this and that. Just do this. Read. And then when you chant, you just chant. And then we will feel more that we are going really in depth of this activity. Is that okay?
So you said at the beginning of the class, you're talking about how in the beginner stage of reading Bhagavatam, our attitude is like that we're going to get some pleasure out of our spiritual activities in general. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get some kind of personal benefit at some point in time. So this is interesting. I was listening to these pastimes about the Goswamis, and like just very like far out pastimes about the Goswamis. And it was talking about how all of the different Goswamis have their Ishtadev that they served. They all had the different deity that they served, like Govindaji for Rupa Goswami. They had their Ishtadev. But it said that Raghunath Bhatta's Ishtadev was Bhāgavatam, and that his life was about rendering service to Bhāgavatam. And I don't understand what that attitude is. Like, what is the attitude of serving the Bhāgavatam instead of thinking that we're getting something out of it?
When you said his deity was Bhagavatam, I was just thinking that actually that means his deity is Narayana Rishi. And because it is said that by reading Bhagavatam, actually you worship Narayana Rishi. This is the way to worship Narayana Rishi. Well, it's not that devotee is not reading to get pleasure out of it. Definitely he is. But in the beginning of our spiritual life, our motivation should be rather different. That was my point. We should read for purification, not for gratification. That's the difference. The mode of passion starts in this way. You want to get the juice from the beginning, and then what will happen after that you don't care. But about the happiness in sattva guna, in goodness, it is said it starts like poison. Why? Why like a poison? Because in the beginning you have to control your senses, but you don't want. And it's a poison. But if you manage to go through this, then the nectar of sattva guna starts coming. So that's why in the beginning, sometimes it will be very pleasant and very nice, sometimes it may not be, but if we have this understanding, no, I'm doing it for purification, that's my medicine, then with the time we'll develop our relationship with Bhagavatam. Because Bhagavatam is... Yes, Bhagavatam is Krishna. Bhagavatam is Krishna. So if we read constantly Bhagavatam, we will get this realization that Bhagavatam is Krishna. That's why we can worship Bhagavatam. By reading Bhagavatam, we are worshipping Krishna, Bhagavatam. And also we can worship Bhagavatam as a deity. We can just take the book Bhagavatam, put it on the table, and worship it every day. There is no difference. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you
Hare
for a
Krishna.
beautiful class. So I had few points and I had 3 questions to ask, and I'll make it as quick as
3.
possible.
Choose the most important, and the next 2 will be yes during prasadam.
So, okay, choosing one. Okay, I'll choose one. So, we were talking about purification of heart based upon hearing, and you said if you are hearing attentively, that could lead to the killing of all the anarthas, and then gradually you will develop taste for hearing more. So I was wondering then, where does chanting comes into picture as well? Because we also know that, okay, if you chant, that leads to Chetudarpanamarchanam, or cleansing of one's heart.
That's a very good question. Actually, I was thinking to say something about that. Yeah, sometimes the question is, we are speaking a lot about hearing and how hearing is purifying us and is elevating us. But what about the chanting? Where is the place of the chanting in the picture? If the hearing is purifying us, so what about the chanting? Well, of course, we know there are different kinds of devotional practices. And actually, it is said the 2 most important are Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. So they go together. They are not separated. Sometimes devotees, they have this question, this discussion, which is more important, hearing or chanting? What you're going to say? Hearing. Chanting. So which one? Why hearing is most important?
I think I just had a thought in this regard when I was also framing a question, and that was, so initially, since we are not in a very elevated devotees, so it's not possible to read 24/7, and it's also not possible to chant 24/7. So the way you initially kick off is relishing the nectar from doing both, because so that your mind is not getting bored of doing one activity 24/7.
Yes, it's a very nice point. They're helping each other, actually. And both are very important from different perspectives. Hearing is very important because if you don't hear, how are you going to chant? We all first heard and we became enthusiastic about chanting. If you don't hear from devotees, how you're going to become enthusiastic about chanting? It will be a waste of time for you. But then from other perspective, we know that the essence of our process is Kirtanya Sadahari. That's the process. The process is chanting Hare Krishna. So from this perspective, we can say this is the most important. But there is no contradiction. They are just helping each other. When you chant, you become very enthusiastic to hear about Krishna. And when you hear about Krishna, you become very enthusiastic to chant. So both are working together. Hare Krishna.
And one comment that I had was to Nadbir Prabhu's question about how we are actually trying to have focus on one place when the actual problem is not having focus at one place. So I was listening to Gauranga Prabhu's lecture, and then he said, so one is what you answered, that is the art of conscious living, where whatever you're doing as per a schedule. So you know that, okay, if this is the time when I eat, I just eat. If this is the time when I have to read, I just read. That was first point, where you are doing everything with consciousness. And second was, whatever you are doing that as well with consciousness. For example, if you are eating, then you observe what you're eating, you see, like you get involved into it, and not just like, okay, if this is my eating time, I'm just going to eat. So the way you get absorbed in it is making sure that all your 5 senses are first involved in that. So that means whenever you're doing a new activity, you are observing the environment, you are soaking in the environment, and then you are touching the things, like you know that, oh, this is the place where I am. And that is like a way of where you are consciously getting involved in an activity, what you're doing.
Yes.
Something like that.
Thank you. Very, very nice point. You want to say something? Okay, so shall we continue on prasadam? Okay, let's continue after prasadam.
Raise your
Just Noah wants to say something, the last.
Raise your hand if you want to keep asking questions. Okay, maybe.
Grantara Srimad Bhāgavatam ki, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gora Premanandi Haribo.